Hello and welcome back to my channel, everyone. As you can see, I'm not AI, and I just wanted to try something a little different this week. So let me know if you like seeing my face or anything. I just kind of felt like I wanted to say hi and show you all who I am. Today I will be covering UFO sightings and alien encounters in the state of Maryland. Shout out to subscriber Jennifer for picking this week's state. Please remember to like, subscribe, and comment, as it really helps out my channel and makes the algorithm happy. If you want to check out more of my paranormal videos, you can click the pop-up in the top right corner for a full playlist. And if you have your own paranormal encounters, UFO sightings, or any other kind of scary story, you can either share it in the comments, post on my subreddit, r/ihaveaspookystory, or you can send it to my submission email, pinkpossiblystories@gmail.com. Maybe your story will be in a future video. So with all that out of the way, let's dive into it. Somebody Up There Is Here Again? From the Evening Sun, July 24th, 1961. The first unidentified flying objects to be reported in Baltimore for a year or more, as far as I learn, were allegedly about during the past month and were of the red fire variety. The most spectacular UFO ever reported in this area allegedly hovered over Loch Raven in 1958 and was of the huge white cigar type. One red UFO, a sort of ball of fire, was reported several weeks ago by a North Baltimore resident who said he saw it for about 15 minutes in the city's southeastern sky, where it allegedly dangled too long to be a flare, then slowly settled down and disappeared over the horizon. It behaved nothing like a meteor, a satellite scrap, an airplane light, a skyrocket, or spots before the eyes, according to the witness. The second red UFO had a bright white center and filled the backyard of Mrs. Barbara Peters at 2150 Mount Royal Terrace from about 3:10 to 3:15 o'clock the other morning, according to her. It was first noticed by her next-door neighbor, Mrs. Missouri Ann Toones, who said she was awakened by a sound like a pistol shot and looked out of her bedroom window to see a red haze of light form with a white center over the tree in Mrs. Peters' backyard. Mrs. Peters was then awakened by what she later described as a murmuring sound, and, as she looked out of her bedroom window, she saw the white center of the red haze move slowly toward her house and over the roof. The red light was then visible through the back and side windows, as if it encompassed the house, according to Mrs. Peters. I thought it was a big fire, she said, but by the time she got up, noticing that her bedside clock read 3:15 and went to the front door of her house, the red haze was gone. The sky was overcast, but there was no lightning or other natural or man-made phenomena that might account for the UFO. Neither Mrs. Peters nor Mrs. Ann Toones found anything unusual in their yards, they said. Neither had ever before seen a UFO. Their husbands were both away in military service, they said. The question still is, what are UFOs? For some reason, July and August are the traditional peak season for UFO sightings in most parts of the world, although the white cigar was reported at Loch Raven in November 1958. And aside from the few folks who have seen something, most people probably still believe that all UFOs are either imaginary or passing tail lights. On the other hand, the Air Force information officer who wrote a book to poo-poo flying saucers was recently transferred out of the Pentagon, and the private Washington National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena, NICAP, feels that the federal government is now somewhat sympathetic to its point of view, which is that some UFOs probably are intelligently controlled ships from outer space. On the third hand, the one attached to the backs of little green men from Mars, that NICAP is reportedly on the verge of bankruptcy. The arrival of interplanetary visitors with money might help the organization that most seriously believes that interplanetary visitors are possible. The Space Age, UFO over Baltimore Harbor. From the Sun, August 15th, 1965. The Maryland Port Authority's Port Welcome was cruising northeastward with 176 members and guests of the Baltimore-Washington Housewares Club aboard when an unidentified flying object was first sighted. At least it looked like a UFO. It behaved in almost exactly the same manner as the objects in the sky recently seen over the southwestern area of the United States. The time was between 10 and 10:15 on Saturday night, when less than a half dozen people were on the top deck and most of the cruising adults were below eating and dancing. The night was clear, so clear that the beams from the near three-quarters full moon seemed to dance on the waters of Chesapeake Bay. The place was midway between the mouths of the Middle River and Bush River. Only a short time before the Port Welcome had rounded the Bethlehem Steel plant at Sparrows Point and, at the time of the sighting, was almost midway the brilliantly lit Martin Company plant and the Army installation at Edgewood Arsenal. At first, one of the observers on the stern of the ship thought the tiny, slow-moving light in the sky was a satellite, but it was soon moving much too fast for a satellite. As it approached the ship, the light seemed to move ever faster and faster, growing in size until it looked like first a small plum and then a tangerine. For a good minute, it seemed to fly silently parallel to the ship's course, still glowing an unblinking orangish red, or at least unheard above the throb of the Port Welcome's engines. One man examined it briefly through binoculars, but said he couldn't see anything but a light. As it passed the Port Welcome, the object seemed to be much lower in the sky and moving faster than any satellite should. And they move at better than 17,000 miles an hour, someone said. The object continued moving southwestward. After crossing the harbor, it seemed to stop for a while, and suddenly the orange light became three lights: red, green, and orange. In a few seconds, it seemed to move off at high speed, for what had been one big orange light, then three multicolored ones rapidly became a dim small light, dipping ever and ever closer to the horizon. Geography, however, shattered the illusion that a passel of flying saucers and their mothership were responsible for the strange light in the sky. The plane theory. A check of landmarks, clearly visible, and a later check of maps indicates that the spot where the big orange light in the sky seemed to explode into three multicolored ones that seemed to disappear at high speed is above the landing pattern for aircraft at Friendship International Airport. What looked like an authentic UFO flying over Baltimore Harbor in all probability was a plane en route to a landing at Friendship Airport. The case is recounted in detail here to illustrate how even a skeptic can almost delude himself into believing that even he probably saw an unidentified flying object. Only the facts that an unusually clear view of the object, almost from horizon to horizon, plus the apparent turn that made the plane's wing lights visible as it banked into the landing pattern area near Friendship, kept the observer from being completely mystified by what he saw in the sky. More and more UFO reports, incidentally, should be coming out of the Southwest and Australia later this month, particularly after the United States sends its twin astronauts L. Gordon Cooper and Charles Conrad Jr. on an 8-day mission around the Earth. One of the prime purposes of Gemini's 121 trips around the Earth is to test the visual acuity of men in space. Trying to explain the unexplainable, UFO chasers will go anywhere to investigate report of sightings. From the Evening Sun, January 31st, 1972. Two glowing red, green, and white objects connected by a thin stream of light hovering for more than an hour in the night skies over Easton on the eastern shore. A saucer-shaped object with an amber beacon on its dome and a string of belly lights zooming out of the night near Westminster. These are just two of a number of unidentified flying objects seen in Maryland skies in the last several months. Are the UFOs coming back? No, they never left. It's public awareness of them that comes and goes. Some are reported in the press. Some get into police reports. All are quickly forgotten, at least by officialdom. So says Maryland's UFO chasers. They are dedicated, amateur investigators who volunteer their time to follow up UFO reports. One of these is John A. Lutz, 32, a dispatcher with Baltimore's Department of Transit and Traffic. He heads an informal group of 20 members called the Odyssey Club, which specializes in investigating UFO sightings. Another investigating group is headed by John B. Carlson, 26, an astronomer. A former instructor at the University of Maryland, he is now studying for his doctorate in astronomy at College Park. His group is the Capital Area Subcommittee of the privately supported National Investigations Committee for Aerial Phenomena in Washington. One of a number of such subcommittees in the nation, Mr. Carlson's team reports to NICAP on UFO sightings in Washington, Maryland, and Virginia. Of the Odyssey Club, Mr. Lutz said, "We go anywhere a sighting is reported in Maryland and conduct a full field investigation. Since September, we have followed up 8 sightings, 3 on the Eastern Shore and 5 in the Baltimore metropolitan area." The club's members, he said, include experts in photography, meteorology, radiology, police sciences, mechanics, and electronics, all skills that help in the investigations. One of the most interesting was reported December 14th near Easton. Newspaper reports said only that 2 game wardens and a state policeman saw 2 objects having red, green, and white flashing lights. But in his follow-up investigation, Mr. Lutz, after talking with the witnesses, learned that the objects were more complicated. Each of the 2 objects glowed white, he said, and appeared to be inset with red and green pulsating lights. They were connected by a thin strand of white light. Their altitude was estimated to be at between 20,000 and 30,000 feet. They hovered in the skies to the east of US 50 near Easton for more than an hour, then disappeared suddenly. Just blinked off, Mr. Lutz reported. The Odyssey Club files the results of its more interesting investigations with either NICAP or 2 other private agencies, Aerial Phenomena Research Organization of Tucson, Arizona, and the Society for Investigation of the Unexplained of Columbia, New Jersey. As a hobby, UFO chasing is unflaggingly fascinating, Mr. Lutz said, adding that there was always the hope of finding an answer to unexplainable things. Though he has found no definitive answers, he has firm theories. "I believe the UFOs, the really unexplained ones, reported by reliable witnesses, are extraterrestrial vehicles that have this planet under surveillance. They may be from another planet in our own system, or even another galaxy, but they are always one step ahead of us." More cautious about the extraterrestrial theory is Mr. Carlson, the student astronomer at the University of Maryland. "I am a scientist," he said, "and no believer in the extraterrestrial hypothesis. Yet I think it is one of the better hypotheses for explaining the UFOs. Certainly, I believe," he said, "that there is much more going on in this world than we know about." But he pointed out that many UFO sightings are readily explainable as natural or man-made phenomena, or they may be outright hoaxes. 2 criteria that add up to an interesting UFO sighting, he said, are the strangeness of the sighting and credibility of the witnesses. You need more than one witness. A single witness is always suspect. But after discounting most sightings for one reason or another, there remain, he said, a residue of basically unsolved cases for which there is no natural, meteorological, astronomical, or other explanation. They just can't be explained away, Mr. Carlson said. One such sighting, which his NICAP subcommittee investigated, occurred August 1st near Westminster. The witnesses, he said, were the Charles Kenyon family of New Windsor in Carroll County, including the parents, 3 teenage daughters, an 11-year-old son, and a teenage cousin. During an intense thunderstorm, they pulled their pickup truck off Route 31 at about 10 p.m., a few miles southwest of Westminster. Mrs. Kenyon first noticed the object during a lull in the storm. It looped back near the truck and passed out of sight. In about 5 minutes, it returned from another direction. Everyone saw it then before it moved off. The object returned for a third and final time. It looped close, estimated from 100 to 200 yards, and appeared to follow a telephone line over Fitzhugh Hill, beyond which it disappeared after turning on a bright white light. When the startled Kenyons drove over the hill, the object had vanished, Mr. Carlson reported. Each of the witnesses drew sketches of what he saw for Mr. Carlson and his fellow investigators. Though there were some variations, all agreed that the object was definitely saucer-shaped, with an amber beacon on its dome and a protrusion in the front. Underneath it, it had 2 strings of lights, unconventional in color and formation. Mr. Carlson said he found the Kenyons to be good, honest people who, as nearly as I can tell, saw something highly unusual. I find it difficult to explain in conventional terms. I would rate this sighting, he continued, as having a moderate degree of strangeness, and the witnesses as having good credibility. Another Maryland UFO watcher who reports to NICAP is Louis E. Corbin, Community Affairs Director for radio station WFBR in Baltimore. For 25 years, Mr. Corbin said, he has been following up UFO reports and is convinced the evidence is extremely formidable that we have something in the skies under intelligent control that is beyond the confines of our technology. In Washington, G. Stuart Nixon, director of NICAP, said his organization is supported chiefly by dues from about 5,000 members who receive a NICAP newsletter on UFO information. On the basis of reports gathered by NICAP, Mr. Nixon said, "There's an awful lot of unreliable UFO reporting, but after discounting that, there remains a hard core of cases that add up to a substantial mystery. Our organization," he said, "wants to see this mystery investigated in a scientific and objective way." If you see one, he wants to know. Bowie Man looks for UFOs. From the Capitol, October 25th, 1973. If you live in Anne Arundel County and you happen to spot an unidentifiable object flying a weird pattern in the sky, there is a man in Bowie who wants to hear about it. Lawrence Jesse is the regional investigator for the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena, NICAP, a private, non-profit organization set up in 1957 to study unidentified flying objects. It is his job to investigate any reported UFO sightings south of Friendship Airport, north of Charles County, east of the District of Columbia, and west of the Chesapeake Bay. National attention has been focused on UFOs recently because of a rash of reported sightings during the past couple of weeks. But Jesse said sightings have been reported regularly to his organization since its formation, and of these, some 1,500 have been listed as bona fide UFOs. That doesn't mean they are definitely interplanetary vehicles, Jesse said, just that we have ruled out all the standard flying objects, like airplanes, kites, balloons, etc. But there is also no reason to rule out interplanetary vehicles, Jesse explained. So we list them with a question mark. Jesse said he has received several reports during the past couple of weeks, but the one which seems to be the most intriguing is a possible sighting by people in 2 different places of the same object. An object was reported to be flying over the Waldorf area, Jesse said, and a woman said she saw an object at the same time while she was driving over the Woodrow Wilson Bridge, looking in the direction of Waldorf. I'm going to be investigating these reports this week, and if it turns out that these people saw the same thing, it's a good solid sighting. Investigation of UFO sightings is difficult, Jesse said, because the objects don't stay in the area long and usually don't leave any traces. Checking out a reported sighting usually just involves interviewing the people who saw the object to get a description. Jesse has never actually seen a UFO himself. I'm also an astronomer, and I have a telescope in the backyard, so I do a lot of looking, he explained, but I've never seen anything I couldn't explain away. One of the ways to determine that a flying object is something unusual, Jesse said, is that it will move strangely, hovering, shifting back and forth, spinning, and so on. There are some objects people have seen which are very, very strange, Jesse said. Our study of UFOs does not involve a question of whether we believe in them or not, Jesse explained. We simply consider the evidence and conclude that there's a distinct possibility that they do exist. NICAP is the largest organization of its kind in the country, and, Jesse said, the only one to apply sober scientific principles to the study of UFOs. The government has never made a study of UFOs, Jesse said. The Air Force has determined that UFOs do not constitute any danger to the American people, so the government ignores them. Joppa. Non-believers watch 4 UFOs in the night. From the Aegis, March 24th, 1977. Four flying saucers were reported in the Joppa area Thursday night by 3 Harford County residents. It's the first time in my life I've ever seen anything like it, said Norman Turner, who works at the Edgewood Arsenal. It was definitely 4 flying saucers moving across the sky. This is the second UFO reported in the Harford County area in the past 2 weeks. A burning ball of fire, which many claim was a UFO, was recently reported near Fawn Grove. Mr. Turner was driving to his home on Old Joppa Road Thursday night when he spotted 4 objects in the sky. It looked like one red light with 3 white ones to the right of the red one, he said. They were about treetop level, too low for an airplane. When Mr. Turner reached his home, he called his wife and a neighbor to come outside and look at the strange occurrence. All 3 of them stood for approximately 5 minutes and watched the objects move slowly across the sky. The lights then disappeared in the distance. There was no noise, said Mr. Turner, except when they got in front of us. Then there was one big humming sound that lasted a couple of minutes. He claims the noise was definitely not that of an airplane. 2 airplanes flew overhead sometime after the objects. We heard that noise, he said. What we heard from the 4 objects was a humming rather than the roar of jets. Because of the height and the manner in which the objects moved, Mr. Turner claims the 4 lights had to be UFOs. They were too low for airplanes, he said. I could have heard an airplane if it was that close to my home. And the lights, which flashed occasionally, were not situated as normal airplane lights, he claims. Mr. Turner also reported the objects were moving very slowly across the sky, much slower than airplanes move. I didn't believe in flying saucers, said Mrs. Turner, but if there was ever a flying saucer, I saw one. I'm a believer now. I've never seen anything like it, she stated. Mr. Turner reported the strange occurrence to the Maryland State Police. A sergeant there told me there was a wreck on Route 7 that night, and the lights were from a helicopter flying from the accident. But what I saw was 4 individual vehicles, said Mr. Turner, and they were moving in the opposite direction from which the helicopter should have been. There's no doubt in my mind they were 4 flying saucers, he claims. The next time, I'm going to be ready with a camera. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. What state would you like to see me cover next? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to keep up with everything I post, and it really helps me with the algorithm. You can also send me your very own alien or UFO sightings, paranormal stories, and any other creepy stories in the comments, or post on my subreddit r/ihaveaspookystory. And lastly, you can send them to my story submission Gmail, pinkpossiblystories@gmail.com. Maybe your story will be in a future video. Until next time, good night sleep tight, and don't let the shadows bite.